Yo guys, just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the video, and don't forget, let them cook. Why don't you go ahead and admit to something right now?
I admit to banging your mom.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something?
So basically one day, I was walking down the street, right? And then I walked back inside my house.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something right now?
I just picked my nose like 5 seconds ago.
Admit I'm a pothead.
Why don't you go ahead and admit something?
I admit that I'm fucking tired.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something?
I fucked a bitch yesterday.
Go ahead and admit to something.
There's this one time, I didn't take a shower for like 5 days straight and played this game.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something?
Nah.
Get that person to admit witchcraft. Just since we're admitting things, right?
I've been broken up with 14 times because they thought I was fucking worthless. I told them to fuck off and never talk to me again. And then I drank myself into a coma. Pretty sad because I don't remember much. One of the lassies that I was dating told me I wasn't worth shit and I was a worthless, pathetic cunt. We dated for about 3 years. About 3 years, and then she told me to just fucking leave her. I wasn't of age at that point. It was about at my 10th that I drank myself stupid. I just don't give a shit at this point. If they don't like me for me, then they're not for me.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something?
I've seen you before, and I do touch kids.
Tell me. How about you just tell me like some kind of fucked up story that happened to you in your childhood, preferably at a young age. Doesn't have to be young, could be like in your 20s or whatever. I don't really care. Tell me something like a just fucking emotional hardship that you went through, one of the biggest struggles you've ever gone through, something you wouldn't even want to talk to your therapist about. Tell me. Talk to me about it. Tell me something that you would never want to bring up again. Just let's talk about it.
I overate on my calories a little bit today.
Things, why don't you go ahead and admit something?
I was the one that burnt down my high school.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something?
I've murdered 3 people.
Go ahead and admit to something for me.
I'm over here at my house, right? So we over there smoking and shit. We smoking like honey bourbon and shit. We chilling. This dude, man, oh my god. Yo, this man, oh my god. He practically like raped me in my sleep. You wanna hear what he did? So I'm over here sleeping, right? Cause like, I'm tired. It was like, it's a long ass drive. It's like 5 hours. So I go to sleep. This fucking like gay dude, no. This random gay dude just came out of the closet out of nowhere. It's like some completely different dude. He's like black and shit. All these cameras are around me. They take off my cock and they just start sucking it, like drying me. I'm a heavy sleeper, so I didn't even notice, man. There's cameras all around me. I got a pillow over my head so I can't even see. Not like forcefully, like I like to have a pillow over my head. They raping me is what's going on. I already told you. So all this happening, all these cameras are around me, man. So then I guess they suddenly just gave up. Like I can't nut. Like I can't nut at all. That's when I realized I had only one nut. I have only one testicle.
So what happened? You fucking woke up in this place, getting sucked off by a bunch of dudes, you're getting raped, cameras everywhere, you look down, you're missing a nut. Now what?
I went to McDonald's and got like a Big Mac, I think.
That's what anybody would do in that situation. You go ahead and admit to something for me.
I don't have anything to admit.
Why don't you go ahead and admit something?
I am beyond high right now for this.
Why don't you go ahead and admit something?
I'm about to release my 44th follower pet on my Gumroad.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something?
I admit I'm a sad boy.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something for me right now?
I leave the toilet seat up.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something for me?
I crashed 4 instances in the past hour.
Why don't you go ahead and admit something to me?
My thing's only slightly above average instead of like, huge.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something?
I stole a pack of candy.
Why don't you go ahead and admit something for me real quick?
I made someone have a prolapse.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something for me right now?
I think I'm good.
Why don't you go ahead and admit to something?
I killed a family of 4 and via car accident last night. I'm really worried about it.
Why don't you just go ahead and admit to something real quick?
I was with your mom last night.
Yo guys, just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the video, and don't forget, let them cook.